Welcome back to the Driven to Succeed Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Olson, and I'm excited to bring a new guest on we haven't had before. Erik Holm from the Right Thing team, which is formerly the Realty Group and LPT as the broker. And Erik, I'm excited to bring you in. We've been working together for about 6 months now, and your team has been awesome to work with, number one. So I want to thank you for actually welcoming me into the fold and your team and introducing me to everyone. And then, yeah, it's been great working with you guys.
Yeah, no, we're happy to have you here too, and hopefully we can keep working together for years to come.
Years to come, exactly. No, I'm excited, man. It's been a good run. We've got quite a few closings now happening under our belt, and
Hmm.
again, everybody's been holding themselves really. It's a tribute to what you and Dan have set up, as far as like being that agent first culture, and that's where I really really like it because you guys, I've worked with quite a few different teams, but like your culture is just like it's agent first,
Yeah,
and
absolutely. We formed the team to be different than the other teams we were previously on, if that makes sense.
oh, absolutely. I mean, because you can, that's where you kind of spot your weaknesses and,
Hmm.
how things and teams. I see teams go through people like kind of a revolving door in some cases.
Yeah,
Eh,
I believe we've lost one agent in all of 2024. Um, that's a that's a pretty outstanding number considering that 90% of agents are out after year one.
Right, right. And then at the same time, though, you're one of the fastest growing teams, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my co-team owner Dan would probably have the exact stats, but we've more than doubled this last year, and we'll probably do it again in 2025.
That's exciting. Number one,
Mhm.
and fantastic because it shows your commitment to giving to your agents, and giving all the tools that are necessary for them to succeed.
Mhm.
And I mean, that's why we're here. That's why it's the Driven to Succeed Real Estate
Mhm.
podcast. Like, I've grown a company, and it's always to have your culture being like front and center, in my opinion, and it really builds that team scenario.
Mhm.
So I can see it. I spotted it right away, and like how your agents work with me and so forth, and it's been great. But let's get back into a little bit about you, Erik. A little bit about your journey. How did you get to where you're at today? Like you were executive chef for what, 20 years?
Yeah, I think a little over 20.
20 years, yeah.
Yep, and that's actually where I met a couple of the agents that are on the team now.
Yeah.
That's where I met Dan, my co-team owner.
Yep.
And I think that has really instilled some work ethic that kind of differentiates ourselves from other agents. And I think that spills over to the rest of the team.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're in I've only worked a little bit in that industry, and my claim is I'm probably the worst server in Granite City history.
Hmm.
It was like 2 months, short-lived. Found out that was not my forte in college, and I got into other sales, and then led me into cars and whatnot. But being in on that side, I mean, it's if you're in a high, it's kind of a high pressure environment. You got to be quick, you got to be moving, and it's busy, and you work a ton of hours, right?
Depends on the restaurants, but yeah, I was in some of the most high pressure, busiest restaurants around, and yeah, I'm glad I'm not in that anymore. I went to real estate. So, why did I go into real estate? I'm
Yes,
assuming you're going to ask
yes,
next.
that is the next question.
Um, so back in the day, my ex-wife, she became a realtor,
Yep.
and that was back in the days when we all worked at this restaurant called Timber Lodge Steakhouse. And she did okay, but then she decided not to do it. And the whole plan was she was going to get her license, and then I was going to get my license and do real estate happily ever after. And I wouldn't have been a chef for 20 years if that was the case. But she didn't like it, so I had to keep doing that. But a lot of the people from that restaurant actually moved on to bigger and better things in real estate. So I always had kind of a contact with that. They probably had a team of 10 or 12 just out of that restaurant
Oh wow.
back in the day, and
Yeah.
they all did really good. They all did really well. In fact, a lot of them are still in business today.
That's awesome. I mean, that's great to hear. And then, so you'd mentioned you started on a couple of teams, and then you kind of saw your weaknesses, and then you and Dan had decided, let's let's do this. How did that decision come about?
So when I first got into real estate, I joined one of the bigger teams around with brokerage I won't say, but Gary Keller owns it. Um, and I learned a lot from there, like how to write purchase agreements and all that. But man, I needed a Chinese abacus to figure out what my commission check was going to be. So
Right.
I ended up leaving there, and then I hooked up with a broker that I was friends with that actually was on my ex-wife's original team. He was the team owner.
Sure.
And then from there, I ran the broker's team after I really got into my groove. And then Dan and I formed our own team within that brokerage, and then we moved over to Realty Group, and haven't looked back since.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and that's going to lead me forward into what do you anticipate specifically in Minnesota? Although you guys are looking to move into other states besides Wisconsin, right? And then do you have anything in Iowa at all, or no?
No, we currently don't have anything in Iowa. We are working Minnesota and Wisconsin right now. Although our GLPT is all 50 states and most of Canada currently. We do have the potential to do that. I was actually on the phone with an agent yesterday that's licensed in Texas and Florida, so that could be an option for us in the near future. But those are more future plans.
Sure.
We're really focused, locally. I mean, even our team site is findminnesotahomes.com, right? So it's more like Western Wisconsin and most of Minnesota at this point.
Correct. Right on. And then so right now, it's been, what I've seen is that the last, 30 months has been a pretty big challenge, but there's still deals to be had. People are still doing it. I'm watching it every day. I'm busier than I've been in a long time. And I think part of that is because there's a lot of people that got out of the business, and both on the mortgage side and real estate side. And I think, and this is my opinion, that 2025 is going to be a little bit bumpy, but it's certainly on the incline. Are you?
So up until right around January 15th, it was pretty tough of this year. We had a really good 2024, but I think you're right. Maybe there is less agents out there. But I'm aware of a lot of agents that were really struggling in 2024. I mean, so this year in 2025, right around after January 15th is when we started running into multiple offer situations again.
Right.
It's happening more and more. Pretty much all of my listings that I personally had were sold the same week, and they were out there for a while. Same with the team's listings is most of them, that were for sale switched over to pending, which is good. That means it's starting to pick up again, but we always have a little increase. I really think it's going to be interest rate driven moving forward.
Yeah, that's, I agree. I mean, I think the biggest news is like the rates currently are the lowest we've seen since December, which was a low point, and since October or September last year, which was a low point. And what now we're sitting in where we can touch low sixes, and I went and updated all my pre-approvals yesterday and all my buyers, specifically about like, hey, here's what we're looking for rates, and we've moved in the last 30 days down a half a point or more.
Yep.
And it's been fantastic. And I think once that news starts trickling out too, where it's becoming more in the local media, and the drivers behind that, and we are the drivers too, with our own social media, and it's just getting back to having a real positivity for sellers and buyers in this market and so forth. I mean, I have a client that's moving here from Detroit, selling a $900,000 home, looking for a $1 million plus home here. And he's missed out twice now. And it's just like the last one, they went and looked at it Saturday morning, open house, 11 o'clock, said, we're writing an offer on it. Oh, shoot. We're canceling the open house tomorrow. We got a cash buyer that wants it closed in 2 weeks. Like, oh my God, it's like, that's the $1 million. And that those haven't been moving, in the last couple of years as fast.
Well, the buyer pool is always smaller with the the $1 million plus homes. That's for sure. What we need as these rates come down, we need more people to put their house on the market to
Move up.
have right, and we need that will give our buyers something to actually look at and to purchase. The last year was the one of the slowest moving years in real estate, I believe, since 1995,
Yep.
with the amount of sales out there. So the issue is the reason I say the rates need to keep coming down for it to really start taking off is because the sellers have what's called the golden handcuffs. It makes no sense for them to trade a rate for a smaller house, right? And pay less money for that house and have the same payment.
Right.
Right. So they're stuck. And we're starting to see people get unstuck as these rates come down. So
Right.
once it breaks that threshold and goes into the fives, 575, 550, you're gonna see the floodgates start getting unleashed.
Yeah, and I think that's not that far off on the horizon if we really look at it. It's if we look at all the different economists, the economists that, how many is there? There are 19 of them or whatever it is. There's a certain number that said, oh, they only want one rate cut. There's a certain number that said maybe 2 or 3 this year, and there's another that says 4 and 5. And as those numbers go from just a couple of people saying 1 or 2 to more of them being 3 or 4, now you're going to start seeing that bond market come. And then
Yep.
plus, I think in my personal opinion, and I think that we are going to see kind of rip the Band-Aid off, and we're going to see a quicker recession, but hopefully that is going to springboard where maybe even the Fed decides to buy some bonds. If that happens, we're going to see rates sooner than later. But
my crystal ball is officially broken, man.
that's
I'm just watching it, quarter by quarter. Right now it's good, but we don't know what's going to happen because I thought going into this year we'd see at least 2, 3, 4 rate cuts was my guess, somewhere in there, and now they may not cut. It all depends on where the numbers come in.
yeah, it's interesting because I watch a lot of different things, and as far as like the predictions, and nobody's predicted the last 30 days, and that whole crystal ball thing, right? It's a real thing. Nobody knows. Everybody that said last year we were going to have rates in the fives,
Right.
in 2024 by the end of the year, that was at the beginning, right? And then also the data keeps coming out, keeps coming out, keeps coming out. Well, we're in this whole tariffs thing. What's tariffs going to do? And that keeps changing on a day-to-day basis, right?
Yeah.
So it is quite interesting, and not to get too far in the weeds on that kind of stuff. But you definitely need to see more of the, Fed chairmen, that they have to be the ones that are saying, like, hey, we need 2 or 3 rate cuts or 4, or it's going to be none. So it's I don't think it's going to get too far into the fives this year, likely, but we could see that. And if we get that, that's the positivity we need, right? And right now we basically saw, without them even announcing anything, we saw 0.5 point in the last month, just based off a different economic data.
I'm super optimistic for this year. I really am. I've had a lot of people pull me aside and ask me about my team specifically. How are we doing so well? Where are we getting our business from? How are you not losing agents? I get a lot of questions like that as we move forward, and other teams are disintegrating or brokerages collapsing because the sales were down so much.
Right.
And my answer, without giving up my secret sauce, is a lot of teams and brokerages, most of them actually, they overpromise and underdeliver. They give you no leads, take a big cut from their team members. And what we do is my team member's phone actually rings with appointments, like they are going on a showing after they take the call type situation, and they're not calling a bunch of bad leads. And that's as far as I really want to get in my advertising piece, unless you're on my team. But that's really the differential with aggressive splits for my agents to give them money, right?
Right. And that's where your agent first culture starts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you are focused on, hey, let's make you guys the money. Like, we're putting a bunch of money into it. Your phone's going to ring, and and
Yeah, it literally rings with buyers and sellers wanting to either see your house or have them come to their house to list it.
yep,
And that's a big differential for how the business is. There's a lot of teams out there that it's all about take, and the reason we built the team this way is to give.
right,
It really, and sometimes it hurts. Like there's been some months, especially around Christmas. It's like, okay, how far in the hole are we gonna go this month?
right.
But then when you come out of it, you just
Like
it all comes around.
you kind of have to build that war chest up, but
Yeah.
and able to in order to be able to do that and survive that those winter months and whatnot. Um, but you're giving your agents, you're giving them more swings at the plate,
Mhm.
literally.
Well, yeah.
You're providing that,
Yeah,
and
but that's what all the agents want. Like when you're a new agent, your sphere of influence, your people that are right around you, they all know you've never done a deal before. It's not like they're throwing themselves at you, right?
right,
But when you get an at bat, meaning you're actually going on a showing with somebody you haven't met before, after you do that over and over and over again, you start to get pretty good at showings.
yeah,
And then your conversion rate starts going up because now you understand what you're doing.
correct,
Most of the agents that I do pick up are fairly seasoned agents.
right,
They're I do take rookies, somebody that has zero sales, I'd be open to that. But most of them understand how to write a purchase agreement and understand why you're going on a showing and what to look out for. But we take all level of agents.
yeah. So if you so to quote unquote have to handhold someone a little bit, that's not a problem, but
Mhm.
it's obviously preference is always having people that already know most of it and
Oh, we have a
so
ton of
forth. But it's
ton of support for agents. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's just that the type of agents that generally are looking for our team are looking for high volume.
right,
I mean, the most recent agent I brought in was doing very, very well on their own, and they simply came over to make more money.
right. And that's what I love. That's what the biggest thing that you guys can do is just give them those opportunities more than
Mhm.
many other. At the same time, supporting them financially even better,
Yeah,
right?
well, in how do we have aggressive splits? Like when I say aggressive splits, I mean I'm giving more to the agent at a close versus a lot of the other places. I don't know what everyone's splits are, of course, but I've heard from the agents that we are very generous.
Right.
And how do we do that? Well, we run with a virtual team. We do Zoom meetings a couple times a week. We do have in person stuff too, but we don't have a ton of admins or office space or anything like that. Of course, it's my business partner. Yeah, but we don't have like a lot of office space, a lot of overhead with that. And we're a technology first team. So we use a lot of AI and digital things on the internet. I'm Gen X, so I really don't understand that too much. But um, it helps the team when like let's say you sign up on one of our ways to generate new leads. You like a house, the AI will reach out to you. I physically won't. My agents don't have to. But then if you say, "Hey, I'd like to know more information about this house,"
Hmm.
then as an agent, they'd say, "Okay, then now I can respond to that." Right. So
Right.
it makes the agent's job a lot easier.
Correct. And you need that response time that that
Mhm.
not all the time you can get because
Mhm.
sometimes people are reaching out at way weird times and
Yeah, well, I mean, the AI is not going to text them at 3 a.m., but it's going to follow up with people when, like, a lot of my agents are so busy that when say a lead came in and wanted to schedule a showing, the agent might already be on showings.
right,
And
right,
now the AI is going to respond right away
sure,
and get the thing booked for you, right?
right,
So that way you're not going to miss that opportunity.
miss it. Yep.
Exactly.
Well, okay, now that leads me into the next part of this part of the conversation I wanted to talk
Hmm.
to you about because I know you've gotten really excited about crypto
Of course, yeah.
and
Mhm.
I've just watched an article the other day that's in Minnesota that there's a brokerage and they're working with a title company that is like all purchased with Bitcoin,
Hmm.
right? That's what they're focused on is Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin purchase for a house. Now, I'm not saying that's but that's where we're going to, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things in the crypto world that's changing, and what is there anything that you see? You've had some clients that
Oh yeah.
that are cashing out crypto to purchase homes.
Yeah, so for the clients that have crypto, we just have that converted to dollars
Right.
cash. Having the bank, the thing with that is it's got a season for X amount of time, usually. So you might be looking at a 60-day close if they convert it to from crypto to cash, but it's not a big deal. Usually they cash it out ahead of time and say, hey, this is how much cash I have. But yeah, I do know a little bit about crypto. I'm definitely not an expert. Um, I have made a lot of money, 6-figure plus off of, 3 grand before on it. And I'm pretty heavy into it right now. I'm a big believer in XRP and any other crypto that's going to be part of our national defense, strategic defense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see a downside if this administration actually does do that. I do believe other countries will follow suit, and I believe the whole world will start scooping up those cryptos specifically.
Yeah, and I've kind of watched some interesting podcasts and YouTube videos on it recently, and it's like you know, it, we're at crypto's been around for a long time
Mm-hmm.
already,
Mm-hmm.
right? But we still are the very, as far as the SEC and getting exchanges and that all that done
Mm-hmm.
appropriately, and I think that's where this administration is really focused on it because they do, I think, part of their strategy is paying off our debt
Mm-hmm.
because of it.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can, like you said, if they can get the rest of if they can start buying it, the rest of the world starts buying it, and it makes that value and it keeps the value of the dollar also
Mm-hmm.
higher, right? And I think that's the biggest thing because the printing of money and making the dollar weaker, we had to reverse that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think this is another utility to help in that
Mm-hmm.
at the same time. But now we're seeing people specifically like that are people that are cashing out the money to buy homes or to buy
Mm-hmm.
cars and to buy other
Mm-hmm.
things. Because I mean, it's real. I mean, I remember making, putting like $800 or maybe I was 2 grand in and like watching Doge go up to like $30,000, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like, or my coin at 2000 going all the way to 27, I think it was,
Mm-hmm.
like holy, and like overnight, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
crazy. But anyway, it's interesting how that is changing and how blockchain is really going to help in the future. And even with titles and like the house purchasing and the contracts, smart contracts and different things like that.
I think title in real estate will eventually get there somehow, especially as more people own this. But in the short term, when I do think everyone should get in on a little bit, maybe not put your life savings into crypto, but you definitely don't want to be left behind. I mean, some of these coins, if you don't know anything about it, they could be worth a nickel or $2 and or $100,000. It kind of depends on what you buy, but we're talking about potentially some of these coins could be doing 5x or 10x
Hmm.
whatever's in there. So you may want to have a little bit in there just so if it does shoot way up, you're not missing the boat.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not, don't put your 100% portfolio into that, that's for sure. But having 10 to 15 or maybe even 20% of your portfolio, if you're into trading at all or,
Mhm.
into it. And I'm watching my Edwards Jones guy, how he talked about it 5 years ago versus how he's talking about it today.
Mhm.
The difference of that is
Mhm.
night and day, because I
Mhm.
mean, you got all of the people in the financial advisory world, the Edward Jones and the other companies like that, where they were like, oh, it's a scam, it's this and that, there's so
Mhm.
much volatility. Well, yes, but there's also where it is moving to the other direction where it isn't necessarily going to be all
Mhm.
volatile at some point too. Um, but anyway, they've changed their tune. If you look at, it was funny. I just heard this too, and maybe this is incorrect, but I just heard. So Jamie Dimon, Chase, J.P. Morgan Chase, right?
Mhm.
He had said, this is a few years ago. He said, if any one of my traders buys Bitcoin or is selling, buying but selling Bitcoin, he said they're fired, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what that did to the market?
Take the market.
Yeah,
Yeah.
25-30%,
Mm-hmm.
right? When he said that,
Mm-hmm.
who's one of the biggest banks out there that owns crypto?
He is.
JP Morgan
Yeah.
Chase.
Well, exactly.
So
Yeah.
it's interesting. So and that's kind of where we're at right now. We're watched at 20% decrease in the highest of of most cryptos, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now where we're seeing like the VIX index is saying this is the buying point,
Mm-hmm.
and at least is one of the buying points for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So buying the dip and so forth. So it's interested in, and I know you've been interested in it. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit on it.
I recommend for new crypto people, if you're interested in getting in, just set aside a monthly amount, and then just at that same day that you pick, just like paying a mortgage, buy the same dollar amount of crypto. And what that's going to do is going to level. So let's say this month you bought high, next month you might buy lower, and that's going to kind of smooth everything out for you over the course of a year.
Right, the average cost. Right,
Mm-hmm.
just bring your average cost in. Just be responsible. Make sure that you're not doing, I know, a couple $100 here, or a couple $100 there, or to whatever your level of interest in.
Mm-hmm.
But you not missing that boat is probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, I mean,
and stay away from the meme coins.
yeah, but so that's just it too. There's a lot of meme coins out there that, I mean, most of them you'll go broke on, but there's some you can make a lot of money on. I'm not gonna give any plugs for any
Right.
apps or
Do your research first on the meme coins before you get into those.
Yeah, I mean, well, just you. I know I'm not. I don't think you're a financial advisor either. So
Correct. This is not a financial advisor podcast.
Yeah, just telling you what I think and what it's gonna be. But I do believe crypto, especially over the next 5 to 10 years, where these coins are at now, they'll be exponentially worth more.
Yeah. Yep. Of course, you have the people that can make it overnight, but most of the time, it's a little bit longer out from that. But we're closing up, Erik. We talked about a little bit about what this year's market is and so forth. What is one of your do you have a success story at all, like with a client that just was kind of that you can think of, or anything that you can think of, or any tips that you have for anybody like this year, if you're going to sell, or if you're waiting for that perfect time to buy a home?
Well, every client that ever closed with is a success story, right?
Well, yes, right.
And there's an agent on my team that was when I met him, he was doing a couple deals a year. I'm not gonna say his name. He can let you know. He might be in your podcast later, but he's listened to me over the last couple of years. Now he's kind of came into his own, and now he has about 9 pending transactions this month, and that's more than a lot of agents will do all year.
Right.
So I mean, yeah, I don't have any past clients that that really come into mind. I mean, they're all, if you close, that's a success.
Right.
No that's
exactly.
There's and most of the transactions, to be quite honest with you, are pretty smooth. Not a lot of hiccups if we're all doing stuff right, as long as you do stuff on your end.
Right.
And I do stuff on my end, the closes are usually pretty smooth.
Right.
I think the last one you and I closed together, we probably talked to each other maybe twice during the transaction about those people specifically.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
And that's the name of the game. I always try to make sure that we're doing things right on our side, so there isn't any tough conversations.
Well, right. I mean, if everybody's doing what they're supposed to do throughout the transaction, there's not a whole lot of us putting our, if we're wearing our fireman hat,
right,
on throughout the transaction after transaction, somebody's not doing something right.
Correct.
Right. It does happen sometimes. It does.
I mean, there's things beyond people's controls that are, whatever, it happens.
Yeah.
But long story short, I appreciate you coming on, and I look forward to the next years of doing business together and watching you grow your team. And if anybody out there is a real estate agent now or looking to get into it and possibly be one of the new ones. But, reach out to Erik.
Sure.
He's got great advice for you. Great team leader, and owner of the broker of the team. So,
Yep.
I want to thank everybody coming. Please like and subscribe. If you want to reach out to Erik, we'll have all the information below.
Yeah,
Thank
I'd
you.
be happy to talk to him. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Thank you, Erik.
Yep.